The forgotten winged ghost of Stalin's sky. The truth about the first rotary wing killer. Hey friends, before we embark on this incredible journey into the past, I want to ask you for one thing. If, like me, you're fascinated by forgotten technological masterpieces, if you get chills from thoughts of what if, and if you want such stories to keep coming, subscribe to the channel and write the word Autogyro in the comments. Your support is a signal to me that we are on the same wavelength, that these stories are needed. And now, get ready. We are turning off the lights, turning on our imagination, and transporting ourselves to an era when the sky was not made of concrete, but of hopes and fear, and its masters tried to become machines that resembled fairy tale dragons. Picture this. The front near Vyazma, autumn of 1941. German tank wedges are tearing through our defenses. The sky is stitched with tracers from Messerschmitts. The earth is burning. And through this hellish meat grinder, in the damp twilight, something incredible lifts off from a frontline airfield. It doesn't have a usual propeller in front. Instead, a huge rotor spins slowly, almost lazily, above the cockpit. It doesn't take a running start. It almost vertically, from a standstill like a giant dragonfly, tears itself from the ground and heads towards the front. Its goal is to spot enemy batteries, to correct the fire of our Katyushas. The pilot knows he has almost no chance of returning, but he flies. This is not a helicopter. This is the Autogyro A-7, the world's first combat rotary wing aircraft. And its story is the story of a genius who was decades ahead of his time, a story almost erased from textbooks. Why was it forgotten? Who were the people who dared to dream in the era of the Great Terror? And what could have been if Stalin had bet not on thousands of tanks, but on these amazing machines? We will find the answers. We will walk the entire path, from blueprints in dusty design bureaus to the trenches near Yelnya, and further, to our days, where the echo of the A-7 can still be heard in the roar of helicopter turbines. Get comfortable, it's going to be intense. A world obsessed with speed and Kamov's crazy idea. To understand the complete revolutionary nature of the A-7, you need to immerse yourself in the atmosphere of the mid-30s. The world is sick with speed. Aviation records are broken one after another. Chkalovs and Gramovs are crossing the poles. Biplanes, which just yesterday were the pinnacle of power, already look anachronistic next to sleek monoplanes. Everyone is obsessed with one thing: faster, higher, stronger. And what about helicopters? Well, helicopters are a disaster. The domain of solitary eccentrics. Complex calculations, capricious mechanisms, endless crashes. It seemed that aircraft were destined only to fly forward. Any attempt to hover, to take off vertically, that was alchemy, almost magic. And in this world, an idea is born that at first glance seems like a step backward. The Autogyro. Invented by the Spaniard Juan de la Cierva, it was a hybrid. It had a regular aircraft engine and a propeller to pull it forward. But the lifting surface was not a wing, but a huge free-spinning rotor on top. It was spun by the oncoming airflow, autorotation. This gave incredible advantages. Takeoff almost from a spot, landing on tiny patches of land, phenomenal safety. If the engine stalled, the Autogyro didn't fall like a stone like an airplane, but glided smoothly and landed. It was the motorcycle in a world of racing cars. Agile, unpretentious, tough. This toy caught the interest of a young, ambitious engineer named Nikolai Kamov. He had an audacious thought. Everyone saw the Autogyro as a courier, an observer, a sports apparatus. But Kamov saw a fighter. Yes, you heard that right. He looked at this fragile construction and imagined machine guns, bombs, reconnaissance behind enemy lines. In an era when even the most advanced armies in the world had unarmed autogyros, the British C-30 used for liaison, the American ones for mail delivery, Kamov conceived of creating an attack platform. Economic background. The price of a dream in industrialization. Let's stop for a second and look at the economics. The second five-year plan was underway. The USSR was transforming from an agrarian country into an industrial power, but at the cost of incredible strain. Stalin bet on gigantomania, Dnieper hydroelectric station, Magnitogorsk, thousands of factories. The aviation industry copied foreign designs, ramping up mass production of fighters and bombers. And into this system, honed for quantity and proven solutions, CAMA's project is thrown. The Autogyro A-7. This is not just another plane. This is a new concept, requiring new materials, new machine tools, new specialists. It's a colossal risk. The money allocated for the A-7 could have built a squadron of I-16 fighters. The country's leadership, on one hand, encouraged innovation. On the other, demanded quick and clear results. CAMA had to prove that his Dragonfly was worth the money. And he proved it. Birth of the Dragon. How the A-7 was created. Work on the A-7 began in 1934. The factory? Not some giant, but the first specialized autogyro plant in the USSR in Uktomskaya. This place became the cradle of the legendary Kamov Design Bureau. A team of enthusiasts under the leadership of Kamov and his comrade. The young Mikhail Mill, yes, that very one, worked around the clock. The design was audacious to the core. Look at it. This is not just a frame with a rotor. It's a full-fledged airplane. It had a wing, a fuselage, an enclosed two-seat cockpit for the pilot and an observer/gunner. And weapons. This is where the real magic begins. Armament. The Dragonfly's sting. Imagine yourself as a German soldier somewhere near Smolensk in '41. You're used to aviation, dive bombers howling, fighters with machine gun bursts. And then you see this slow, strange machine. It can hover almost in place, turn on a dime. And then they open fire from it. From everywhere. Front, the pilot has a PV-1 machine gun. Rear, the gunner has a twin DA, Degtyaryov Aviation, mounting on a ring turret. He could return fire at attacking fighters, engage ground targets in a full 360-degree arc. Under the wing and fuselage, up to 4 100-kilogram bombs or 6 RS-82 rocket projectiles, the very same that would later become famous on Katyushas and IL-2 attack aircraft. This was a flying whirlwind of death. It didn't evade battle like a scout, it imposed it. Its firepower was comparable to light attack aircraft of the time. Kamov didn't just create a machine. He created a new tactic. Technical marvel, the jump start and folding blades. But how to make this colossus work effectively? The M22 engine with 480 horsepower wasn't just for pulling. Through a clever gearbox with a gear ratio of 5.78 to 1, it could briefly spin up the main rotor. This was called mechanical pre-rotation. The rotor spun up to 195 revolutions per minute, and the autogyro performed its famous jump start. With a run of just a few dozen meters, it took off. It was akin to magic, and it was foldable. The rotor blades and wing tips could be folded, turning the bulky aircraft into a compact load for transport by rail or even by truck. It could be quickly hidden in a forest, camouflaged. The landing gear could be changed from wheels to skis. It was an all-terrain vehicle. Its service ceiling of 4,700 meters allowed it to escape anti-aircraft fire. Does it sound like science fiction? It was reality embodied in metal. Not just war. Autogyro rescuer and autogyro farmer. And now, one of the most astounding facts showing the universality of genius. The A-7 fought, but its first baptism of fire was against the codling moth. Yes, you read that correctly. A modification, the A-7 bis, was turned into a flying crop duster. In the foothills of the Tian Shan, a pest was raging, threatening to destroy the harvest. Planes couldn't fly in narrow gorges and land on tiny patches. But the A-7 could. They installed tanks with pesticides and a sprayer propeller. The vortex flow from its own rotor perfectly enveloped the treetops with chemicals. It was the world's first precision agricultural aviation, and it performed brilliantly. Moreover, it was being prepared for the role of an Arctic rescuer. According to the plans of the Chief Directorate of a Northern Sea Route, the A-7 bis was to be sent on the icebreaker Yermak to evacuate the famous Papanine expedition from the drifting station North Pole 1. Imagine, an autogyro rescuing hero polar explorers in the Arctic. That would have been a PR triumph, unprecedented for such technology. And the most amazing thing, on June 19th, 1941, 2 days before the war, the country's main newspaper, Pravda, published a rapturous article about this miracle machine. The country was preparing for peace, for labor feats, and the A-7 was their symbol. But fate had other plans. The fiery sky of 41, baptism by fire. June 22nd, Operation Barbarossa. The Wehrmacht rolls east like a steamroller. Our aviation suffers monstrous losses on airfields. In this chaos, confusion, and heroism, the world's first and only unit of combat autogyros is born. The separate Autogyro Squadron under the command of Senior Lieutenant Trofimov. 5 machines. Just 5 examples of the A-7 ZA, the military modification. They are based near Yelnya, 20 kilometers from the front line. Their task, day and night, in any weather, to fly artillery spotting missions. One of the most dangerous jobs in aviation. You need to hover over the front line for a long time, looking for targets, exposing yourself to anti-aircraft guns and fighters. Their second task was liaison with partisan units. The Autogyro could land on a tiny clearing in the forest where an airplane couldn't go. It delivered scouts, medicine, orders, and took out the wounded. Historical analysis. Why didn't the Germans create something like this? And what about the Germans? They had their own projects. Famous helicopters like the Focke-Achilles FA-233 and the Flettner FL-282. Good, progressive machines. But the Germans thought in terms of total war and mass production. Their helicopters were created as highly specialized apparatuses, anti-submarine, for supplying mountain troops. The idea of an attack helicopter, a flying fire support platform, never occurred to them. They went the way of improving classical aviation. Kamov, however, in conditions of shortage and lagging behind, made a conceptual leap. He thought not in terms of like theirs, but better, but in terms of what if we do it completely differently? And this differently was decades ahead. Feat and tragedy. Trofimov's night flight. One night, Trofimov received an assignment. Urgently deliver a report about a German breakthrough to headquarters in Gzatsk. Fly in pitch darkness, without lights, over unfamiliar terrain. Navigating by vague silhouettes, he saw a gap below, supposedly a clearing for landing. It was an optical illusion. The gap turned out to be a treetop canopy. The Autogyro crashed from a height of about 10 meters. The impact was terrible. The machine turned into a pile of wreckage. But, by some miracle, Trofimov survived. And most importantly, he delivered the report. This episode characterizes both the machine and the men like no other. Risk on the verge of suicide, self-sacrifice, and the incredible survivability of the apparatus, which even in such a crash preserved the pilot's life. The sunset of an era and an immortal legacy. The fate of the A-7 was sealed. In the autumn of 41, the evacuation of the plant in Ukhtomskaya began. The war demanded simple, cheap, mass-produced items. The complex and expensive Autogyro didn't fit this concept. The project for a prospective Autogyro with a swash plate, a step towards a true helicopter, was shut down. Both Kamov and Mill, having gained invaluable experience, switched to creating real helicopters. Thus legends were born. The Ka, with their coaxial scheme, and the Mi, the mighty workhorses of war and peace. So, was the A-7 a failure? Absolutely not. It was the first brick in the foundation of Soviet helicopter construction. It proved to all skeptics that rotary wing machines can be combat-worthy. They can carry serious armament. They can perform tasks inaccessible to airplanes. The helicopter concept is not a whim, but the future. It was ahead of its time. Look at the modern combat helicopter Ka-50, Alligator, or Mi-28, Night Hunter. In their DNA is that very principle formulated by Kamov. Maneuverability, the ability to base near the front, powerful armament, survivability. The A-7 was their spiritual grandfather. What if, friends, we have come to the end of this incredible story? But I want you to think for a second. What if Stalin and the military leadership had seen the potential of the A-7 not in 5 examples, but in 500? What if by the start of the war, we had not one squadron, but entire regiments of these winged dragonflies. They would have hung over German columns, correcting the fire of Katyushas, supplying partisans, strafing infantry from the air. How would that have changed the course of the battles in 1941? Could the Germans have advanced so quickly with such ubiquitous and elusive machines over their heads? We will never know the answer. History does not know the subjunctive mood, but knows lessons. And the lesson of the A-7 is that a real breakthrough often comes from those who dare to think differently, who look at familiar things from a different angle. In an era when everyone strove upward and forward, Kamov made the sky stop and think. This story is a monument not only to iron and engines. It is a monument to human courage. The courage of an engineer who risked proposing a crazy idea. The courage of a pilot who took the unknown into the sky. The courage of an entire country that, even in the harshest of times, found resources for a dream. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this long, but I hope, gripping story. If, like me, you get goosebumps from such forgotten pages of our history, if you want me to keep finding and telling stories about them, let me know. Write in the comments what other forgotten invention you would like to hear about. Hit the like button to support the channel, and subscribe so you don't miss new investigations. See you soon in dusty archives and on the pages of forgotten blueprints. Bye.